The City Commission will vote to initiate the process of transferring Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare from the City of Tallahassee to Florida State University.
Brianna Shaw is going to join us now live from City Hall, where that meeting will take place this afternoon. Brianna, let us know what's going on out there and how's everyone feeling about it.
Rob, Madison, today the City Commission will vote on a memorandum of understanding which lays out exactly what the transfer of TMH to Florida State University would look like. Now, the MOU was released back in December. It details how city-owned hospital assets like the property and the equipment would transfer to Florida State. The agreement also states that FSU would pay the city $109 million over 30 years. In addition, FSU has agreed to invest up to $250 million in upgrades and to commit grants and donations to the academic health programs at TMH. Now, I spoke with the chairperson for Tallahassee Alert, Bruce Strobel. In the midst of early talks, the organization called for a campaign to pause the sale. Strobel says he sees the potential benefits of the merger, but he thinks that the decision should have more public input before moving forward.
I'm generally concerned about the speed that it was done at, right? And that it's moving at a speed that has not allowed most community members to participate. And when you're talking about a large-scale public asset like Tallahassee Memorial Hospital and the billions of dollars of investment that are associated with it, we have to think who stands to gain and what is the community losing.
I also spoke with Pastor Rudy Ferguson. He says he believes the merger will improve health care in the area.
It's important that we have a better healthcare system. That TMH, rather, has the expertise to bring it to bear. Florida State has the medical facilities and education to bring that to bear. FAMU will have that cultural competence and also that building trust with those communities who are underserved.
Ferguson is holding a press conference today ahead of the vote to show unity and support for the transfer among faith leaders in